Yes, episode number 292, Tommy Maroon Sports Show. Got my agenda right here, and I got a lot of exciting stuff to talk about because the Cleveland Guardians are in first place. Who would have guessed it? Who? I don't know, not me, I'll tell you that. Oh my word, that's incredible. That's truly incredible, man. You know why? Because they were down 15 and a half at their peak, and now they are winning the American League Central. Oh my goodness, I don't believe it. They won 17 of their last 19, an incredible 10-game winning streak earlier this season, down 11 games earlier in September, and have a negative 2-run differential, and this would be the greatest divisional comeback in baseball history. No, seriously, it would be. I'm dead serious. So there is that. And you know what there also is? There's also the fact that the 1978 Red Sox will finally have freedom. Oh my goodness, the 78 Red Sox had a 14-game lead over the New York Yankees and blew it. Well, Tigers had a 15.5-game lead over the good old Guardians, and they are now down 1 to the good old Guardians. I think Cleveland won the season series, so tiebreaker advantage goes to Cleveland. I'm just saying. I'm also just saying it was a good series against Minnesota, winning 3-1. I said they swept the Twins, but that ain't true. Anyways, Stephen Kwan has 50th RBI of the season in Game 1. Bo Naylor, 4 RBIs in Game 2. Slade Ciccone, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits surrendered in Game 2. Bo Naylor homered in Game 2, and Stephen Kwan had 4 hits. Stephen Kwan had 4 RBIs in Game 3. Logan Allen, the lefty Logan Allen, had himself a dandy. My goodness, 8 innings, 4 hits, all of them shutouts. Same with Slade Ciccone in Game 3. Guardians 10-game winning streak came to a screeching halt in Game 4, but it's all right because Stephen Kwan hit the leadoff home run in Game 4, and you're not going to win every game. Anyways, what you're going to do is beat the Tigers at least 2-0, maybe 3-0. I'm just saying. It all depends on what happens tonight. Tarek Skubal had a horrible throw in the earlier in the 5th inning, I think, in Game 1. What happened was it was a weak hit towards the first base side. Skubal gets in and tries to snap it like a football center, and it winds up flying way over the head of the first baseman. Yeah, and the Guardians just poured it on. No balls left the infield in the 5th inning, and the Guardians still cashed in 3. I'm just saying that's pretty darn incredible. And Gavin Williams punched out 12. You're looking at some of them now. Poor David Fry, he took a bullet right to the face. Literally a bullet right to the face. He was trying to bunt at 99 miles per hour. Tarek Skubal doing his thing, and it hits him right in the schnoz. He breaks it. And he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. We can only hope David Fry will be back in 2026. That is never a good thing. Tarek Skubal obviously felt bad, as you might expect. And then in Game 2, it was all good because the Guardians won Game 1 and David Fry's released from the hospital. That's always good. What's also good is that the Guardians tied for first on Tuesday and then took the lead all by themselves in Wednesday night. On Wednesday night, Jose Ramirez had 2 RBIs, 2 doubles in Game 2. And George Valera, home run over the right field wall, or over the center field wall, I beg your pardon. George Valera hit a home run over center in a ball that would have only gone out of here only at Progressive Field. George Valera had the crippling blow in the bottom of the 3rd inning, and the Guardians just poured it on, winning by a final score of 5-1. You know what I think George Valera is? If we're still talking about the 1978 Red Sox, as I have been for a while, George Valera is the Bucky Dent of the 2025 Guardians. Now, here's a rumor I heard. I don't know if it's true or whatnot, but I heard that if you go to a Detroit bathroom, turn off the lights, have blessed candles, look in the mirror, and say, George Valera, George Valera, George Valera, he's going to show up and torment your soul. That's just a rumor. I'm just saying. Anyways, the Guardians are up one game on the Detroit Tigers. Who would have guessed that? Who would have? Not me. And what I'm also saying is that Seattle clinched the AL West. Toronto's tied with New York for that, what do you call it? American League East. And the Guardians are sitting pretty up top, the American League Central. This is oh so great. It really is. I can't believe it. I honestly cannot. But you know what? I can believe that Tommy's picks went really well last week, especially in high school football. Highland raced out to a 42-0 lead at the half and won 42-9 against Copley at Copley. Hoping my lock of the week, they beat Lyndhurst Brush 45-7. Madison, Washington pulls off the upset at Paul Brown Tigers Stadium. They beat Ed's pretty bad 21-14. St. Ignatius won their first game of the season. Well, you know what they say, better late than never. I couldn't believe it. St. Ignatius has been ice cold all season. They've been ice cold for a while now. And they finally, I repeat, finally pick up a win. They do it over the rough and tough Riverside Beavers of all schools. If the season ended today, St. Ignatius would have that 12 seed and would be going up against Strongsville and probably get murdered to Strongsville, but oh well. And there also is that men are shut out Medina 49-0. Strongsville, they beat Euclid 27-12. Nordonia remains undefeated, just like Highland, with a 48-14 win over Solon. Hudson blanks Stowe 35-0. Talmadge just squeaks out a win over Barberton. When I say squeaks out a win, I really mean it. 21-20. My goodness, that was close. Speaking of games that were relatively close, Aurora only won 14-0 over Revere. Shocking, I know. Avon did not have a running clock, but they still beat Olmsted Falls pretty considerably. 28-0. Avon Lake 31, Amherst Steel 21. Lake Catholic won a low-scoring affair, 6-3 over Benedictine. NDCL, they beat Bedford 27-21. Kenston, they beat Manchester 24-17. Rocky River having themselves a mighty good season. They won it by a score of 39-13 rather. Buckeyes undefeated. They beat Bay by a score of 34-28. And Cloverleaf, they beat Coventry 19-0. Keystone just gets by Brookside 35-26. And Columbia is also undefeated. They bounced Black River 14-0. D3, why not? And North Central does their thing. They beat up Carthage 62-0. Good golly. And Johns Hopkins, they beat Susquehanna 40-22. Wisconsin Whitewater beats UMHB Mary Hardin Baylor 26-6. Hope just lasts out over Mount St. Joe's 31-28. And John Carroll beat up poor Oberlin 63-0. Albion beat Rose Holman 25-17. Hobart beat Utica 20-17. Hanover beat Alma just by 1 point, 24-23. And then Franklin and Marshall just edges by Catholic. And when I say that, I mean by a considerable amount. Excuse me. 42-7. That's a blowout. Excuse me. And Baldwin Wallace, the good old Yellow Jackets, we beat Capital, or as I like to call them, Cap Pity, because they're a pity, 44-7. And in a barn burner, Muskingum took down Wilmington 56-49. Wabash beat Worcester 34-7. Washington U, they beat Carroll 42-29. Wow, how about Adrian? They just beat up Manchester 57-0. Claremont Mud Scripps, they beat George Fox 28-21. Wittenberg bounces Ohio Wesleyan 55-17. Westminster beat Case 28-23. How about Calvin? They're in their second season of existence for the football program. They beat Heidelberg in overtime 40-37. Time for FBS football. Oh boy. Iowa beat Rutgers 38-28. What else happened? Utah fell bad to Texas Tech. They let them get on a run in the fourth quarter, 34-10. And Clemson, the most overrated program in all of America, they lost bad to Syracuse, 34-21. I don't know why people are saying Clemson's good. They're not good. They're not. Dabo Swinney is a good coach, but he has lost his touch, essentially. TCU beat SMU 35-24. USF beat SCSU 63-14. And Tennessee, my lock of the week, they beat University of Alabama Birmingham 56-24. And Oregon in the Civil War, they beat Oregon State in a very uncivilized game, 41-7. And by uncivilized, I mean the final score. Look at that. Speaking of blowouts, Florida State beat Kent 66-7. And Oklahoma edges by Auburn in an SEC showdown 24-17. Michigan edges by Nebraska in a Big Ten showdown by a score of 30-27. Notre Dame finally picks up a win. My goodness, 56-30. Western Michigan just gets by Toledo 14-13. Duke beat North Carolina State 45-33. Mizzou, they beat South Carolina 29-20. Indiana really took it to the Illini. The Hoosiers, it was supposed to be a top 25 showdown, and they just essentially beat them up mercilessly, 63-10. And then the Apple Cup, Washington beat Washington State by a final score of 59-24. In the NFL, my goodness, the Bills beat the Dolphins 31-21. That was not surprising. Panthers beat the Falcons 30-0. That's a little surprising. What's super surprising is that the good old Cleveland Browns. How about that one last Sunday? Block kick by D. Ward. Andre Schmidt with the ultimate redemption story. A 55-yard field goal as time expired. And the Browns beat my lock of the week in the Green Bay Packers. Hey, I'll take it every day of the week. I'll tell you that. 13-10. Jaguars beat the Texans 17-10. I tell you, when the Bengals are without Burrow, they are a mess. And they are truly a mess right now. 48-10. Good heavens. Steelers beat my upside of the week in the Patriots 21-14. While we're on the subject of block kicks, the Rams were lining up for a game-winning field goal, of course, last week against the Eagles. It got blocked, returned all the way back for a touchdown. And even though it says 33-26, it was 27-26 when the Rams lined up for the field goal, so it was not the ultimate block field goal for a touchdown. But it still was pretty nice for Philly nonetheless. And the Jets had a blocked field goal for a touchdown too. Except it wasn't enough because they're the Jets. And Baker Mayfield is looking like a real threat out there. Like he did in Cleveland. You remember Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was good. I know. It was a final score of 29-27. Colts are undefeated. They beat Tennessee 41-20. Commanders beat the Raiders 41-20 as well, I believe. Chargers beat the Broncos 23-20. Chargers are 3-0. Seahawks bounced the lowly Saints 44-13. And Ben Johnson at Chicago, he picks up his first win ever as a head coach, 31-14 over the Dallas Cowboys. 49ers win on a walk-off kick, 16-15 over Arizona. Arizona lost James Conner for the season. Chiefs beat the Giants 22-9, and in a Monday night barn burner, as you might have expected, with guys like Jared Goff and Lamar Jackson and all those guys for Detroit and Baltimore. But Detroit won 38-30. Oh, it took those crazy calls by Dan Campbell, as you might expect. He's a crazy coach, but it works. It works. Question is, can you stop Dan Campbell's crazy play call? And I guess you can't. Tommy's picks. It's that time, folks. Highland Talmadge, come on. We're going to win that game. I don't need to explain myself. Cleveland Heights They're taking on Manor. Manor's going to bulldoze the Cleveland Heights Tigers. St. Ignatius against Benedictine. Benedictine's going to bounce back with a win after losing Lake Catholic last week. Avon against Brea Mid Park. Got to go with the Eagles. Avon Lake will beat Elyria. Elyria's 0-5 on the season. Good heavens. Brunswick will beat Lorraine. Strongsville, they're having a great season this year. Jason Trusnick doing a good job. He'll beat Medina. Solon against Stowe, a much-needed win for both schools, but I think the Bulldogs are going to beat the Comets. Hudson against Twinsburg, got to go with Hudson. Wadsworth, Brecksville, got to go Grizzlies. Barberton against Roosevelt, that'll be a good game in my opinion. I think Roosevelt will easily win it. And speaking of good games, Aurora Copley, that won't be bad either. Upset, Aurora Copley will pull off the upset. Streetsboro against Norton, got to go with the Panthers. Cloverleaf will beat Ravenna. Buckeye Valley Forge, got to go with the Bucks. The Bucks are going to be 6-0 on the season. How about Buckeye? McKinley against Green, going to pick the McKinley Bulldogs. And Hoover's going to be undefeated still when they beat Glen Oak. Perry Pirates, they'll beat Lutheran West. Firelands against Clearview, picking Firelands. And my lock of the week, the last game, which happens to be Columbia, going to go 6-0 when they beat Brookside by a considerable amount. I don't think Brookside has a win this season. Oh, ye gods. D3 football, Washington U against North Central. North Central is probably going to beat the lights out of Washington U. And then a big game. The good old Yellow Jackets. My ball Wallace Yellow Jackets. I'll be at the game. I won't be announcing, of course, but I will be there nonetheless. And we are taking on the evil empire, the Mount Union Purple Raiders. That's scary. They're number 2 in the country. They're doing a phenomenal job right now. We received a good chunk of votes in the, top 25 poll in D3 football. In fact, we received 18 votes, D3football.com poll, which is the second most out of any school not ranked. Oh, boy. What do we have to do to be ranked out there? I don't know. But what I do know is that the fun's probably going to come to a screeching halt because the Evil Empire is probably going to do their thing and beat us bad. I'm scared about that game. Could we do it? You never know, but it's Mount Union. Realistically, there's not really a good shot, but there is a shot nonetheless. But again, I'm picking the Raiders. Hate to do it, but thinking realistically. St. John's is my lock of the week against Augsburg. Washington Jefferson, the Presidents, will upset the Grove City Wolverines. At least I think they're the Wolverines. Cortland will beat Mooresville State. Worcester's going to pounce Oberlin. University of New England's going to beat Western New England. Randolph-Macon, the Yellow Jackets will beat Washington and Lee. At the K against Hobart, going to pick Hobart. St. Vincent against Hiram should be a good game, picking St. Vincent. Capital against Marietta, that won't be a good game because Marietta's going to beat up Capital. Wilmington against ONU, that will actually be a good game. Wilmington's not doing that bad thus far. They almost beat Muskingum. But ONU, I think, will win the Polar Bears. Bethany against Case, gotta go Bethany. Otterbein against Muskingum, picking Otterbein. Wabash against Denison. Wabash, the old Giants. Augustana against Milliken, gonna pick Augustana. Calvin will beat Kalamazoo, and Aurora will beat Eureka. Time to go to FBS football. Arizona State will beat TCU. Who else is out there? There's Wake Forest against Georgia Tech, picking the Yellow Jackets. Now, it's one Yellow Jacket team that I think will win. Hopefully, it'll be 2 in BW, but we'll see. USC against Illinois, picking USC. Arkansas, I hate to do it, but Notre Dame's defense is so poor, so pathetic, that I think Arkansas is just going to steamroll my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's at home, too, and perhaps kill the shot at the college football playoffs, which would absolutely suck, but I fear it. Louisville against Pitt, picking Louisville. Washington, Ohio State's going to be a good game at Husky Stadium. I'm picking the Buckeyes, though. I think they'll win it. But Washington's undefeated, let me tell you that. Ole Miss could give LSU their first loss of the season. I think they will. Texas A&M against Auburn. I'm picking the A&M Aggies as my lock of the week. Who else is out there? Iowa, Indiana, going to pick the Indiana Hoosiers. West Virginia against Utah, picking the Utes. Mississippi State will beat Tennessee in what should be a good game. I think it's a top 25 matchup. Iowa State, Arizona, picking the Cyclones. North Carolina State will beat Virginia Tech. Here's a top 10 matchup now, folks. Oregon, Penn State, Beaver Stadium. I don't know if it's a whiteout or whatnot, but what I do know is that James Franklin's yet to prove he can win a big game. And Dan Lanning has had his fair share of signature wins. History's going to repeat itself going with the Ducks. Georgia will beat Alabama. Colorado will beat BYU. I'm just saying, that is a huge slate we got this week. I can't wait. In the NFL, the Cardinals against the Seahawks. Got to pick the Seahawks. Steelers against the Vikings out in Dublin, I think. I know it's in Europe, I know that. Picking the Vikings. Falcons against the Commanders, picking the Commanders. Bills will beat the Saints. Lions, as much as I hate to say it, they'll probably beat up the Browns because they're the Lions. They're a tough team, and Dan Campbell is a crazy coach, as I mentioned. Houston will beat Tennessee. That'll be easy. Patriots against the Panthers. Picking the Panthers. And then my lock of the week, the Chargers. They're going to beat up the Giants senselessly. And then the Buccaneers will upset the Eagles. Rams are going to beat the Colts and end the Colts' undefeated season. 49ers will beat the Jaguars. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but I do. Chiefs will beat the Ravens. One of those teams will go to 1-3 on the season, and both those teams are typically very good, but I think the Chiefs are going to win. Raiders will lose to the Bears. Packers on Sunday night, they'll beat the Cowboys. And then 2 Monday night horrible games. 2 horrible Monday night games. Jets, Dolphins, someone's got to win that, and I think that someone's going to be the Jets. Broncos, Bengals, somebody's got to win that. I'm thinking the Broncos. Well, we did it. Episode number 292 is complete. Who would have guessed it? Next week, we're going to talk about some exciting stuff like the Cleveland Guardians more than likely being in the playoffs and more Tommy's picks. Tommy Maroon, thanking you for watching, folks. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.